Okay. As an example, in our check-ins here, Reverend Laura is previously with the Greater Las Vegas Center and is now in the St. George Center. And she's just taken that over and in the process of almost moved there. And so she's going to watch us on video tonight. And she says that the support that she can give to the group here as we travel together is that she has a great background in developing classes and workshops and training and applying spiritual principles to lots of different kinds of topics, connecting. So she has her mandala workshop, for instance. And then what she wants to receive is any tips or hints on basic center management. If there's just something that you think that she ought to know, like first weekend, first 30 days, save her from it, and effective organizational strategies, which she's learning through this process as well. But I know that she'll learn more about tonight too when she gets into the recording. So how about given a theme here, Reverend Jeffrey, how would you kick us off here with the group? Remind us where you're from, where you're to, and do your give and receive. And I'm going to take note of these two guys.
Okay. So thank you, Reverend Sonia.
I keep forgetting.
Yes. And Reverend Leslie. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, those are two U.S. reverends. So thank you. I am formerly of the Greater Las Vegas Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas, still dividing my time between Las Vegas and my center, which is the Riverside Community Center for Spiritual Living in Riverside, California. As I was thinking about this, having just, being in this for about 7 months now in the center in a lead role and being the official senior minister for maybe just over a month now. What I'm able to give at this point is prayer and to be a sounding board and to share some resources, specifically around some spiritual engagement, social justice type of things, and getting more engaged in your individual communities. There's some ideas that I have around that and some things that we've been doing around that that are really helpful. Having just been to the Ministers' Conference too, if anybody has questions as to what it means to be political from the, Canada, from the IRS standpoint for your 501c3, for those of us in the United States, what that means and the leeways, I can share some information that we learned at the Ministers' Conference in Dallas. That was fabulous. And then receiving, again, similar to Reverend Laura, the systems and the structures and ideas, and really some peer supervision. And by peer supervision, what I mean is being able to bounce ideas off and get feedback and support with some of our challenging, beloved children of God, as Dr. Kathy likes to say, and as Mark would say, the extra grace required individuals, for those of you who know Mark Anthony Lord. So we've got several of those showing up in our community now. All of a sudden, Reverend Jeffrey is now the official minister, and so all of a sudden, all of our crazy shows up. So it's really wonderful. So it's fun. And it's like, okay, yeah. That's it. That's where I'm at.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we'll get paired up tonight too. So I know you're going to get some peer pairing that will help you after tonight. Wonderful. How about Stephanie?
Hi, everybody. I am in Dayton, Ohio, CSL Greater Dayton. You having trouble hearing me?
No, it's good.
Okay. I see some of this. So what can I offer? My business does not necessarily lend itself to ministry per se, except that I have been told that I am a first-class listener, that I can offer you a sort of an open, non-judgmental space and ask open, honest questions that I hope will facilitate a kind of cracking open to your own answers. As for what I would request, that would probably be effective people management. I do work with some of our volunteers, but again, my own business, it was me and a business partner. And so we didn't necessarily have staff or anything else. And I'm starting to work with that now as I take on a bigger part in my center, and I'm not very good at it. So that would be what I would ask for.
Okay. Great, noted. How about Cassandra, Reverend Cassandra? Can we hear from you? Loving the hair.
Hi, thank you. It's my autumn color.
Beautiful.
I live in Portland, Oregon, and one of the things that happened in between last call and this call is that I did sign a letter of call with Oh My God Life. So I'm working with Reverend Z and Melissa. So we're just starting that. And part of what their ministry is to support other ministers in creating their own focus ministry. And so that is what I am also doing. I am working to create my own focus ministry, and I have my eyes set on Vancouver, British Columbia. And we've made some progress in that area during this last month, and it's looking good for our immigrant status. And we're going to visit next month. So we'll be in Canada in November, and I'm just so excited about that. And so in terms of what I can give, I have a lot of experience with social media, Facebook, Instagram, mainly those two. It's a little bit of Twitter. So if anybody needs help, mainly information around social media and or how to manage. And blogging, love to blog. So if you're wanting info in that area, I'm your person. And what I need is branding. That's where I'm at in my, I need a title for my ministry. I need a tagline, and I need to really synthesize. I have a lot of content that I've developed over the last 10 years, but now I need to really synthesize and get very clear on what I stand for. So if anybody has expertise in branding and or referral to somebody who does branding specifically, I'm open to both of those things.
Oh, just hold on a moment. I have a feeling something's coming. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And how about we hear from Teresa?
Hi, I'm Teresa Wilson, and I'm with Center for Spiritual Living Metro in Arlington, Virginia. I don't have a big fancy title. I'm just an active member of the community, and I have a lot of business and entrepreneurial experience, and I am a consultant and a project manager. So I'm used to herding cats and trying to stay organized and moving things across the finish line. So I'm good from an organizational perspective. I also have a lot of courage, and I am pretty good at taking risks. So if you need somebody to tell you, yes, you can do this, I'm your person. And what I'm looking for, I am looking for any and all ideas on how we can grow our little center. We're small, but we have such amazing gifts to offer. And honestly, I have no experience whatsoever in growing a spiritual community. I've grown a business and I've grown a nonprofit, but I feel like I'm in totally kind of foreign territory here. Mm-hmm. So we're really looking for, I'm looking for the, hey, this is a great idea. Why don't you try this? So open to all suggestions. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Karen, are you able to share with us?
Yes, okay. I think I can. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you well enough, I think. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm Karen Lewis from the New Vision Center in Phoenix, Arizona. And what I have to offer is a lot of experience in the business world, different business worlds, and how to translate those skills into spiritual center, because that's what I've been doing for the last 6-7 years since I've been involved so much at NBC. And the particular niche that I have developed is working with service teams. So we changed the structure from volunteerism over to service ministry, and it is absolutely amazing how that has changed the quality of folks showing up for their service, how devoted they are, how the conversation about is going. It has caught on fire, and so I am on fire for it. And I would love to work with people and help them build a service structure that works in their communities. And what I'm looking to receive, I am in this wonderful position to have a co-director or leader that has a lot of the skills that I am looking for and receive that way. And what I would love to receive from this group is a reminder to serve the self also. There's so much work to be done. I'm a new minister for 2 months now, and I love every aspect of ministry, and I need to love myself with the same passion, so that I don't burn out, so that I can be the best Karen that I can be. And so I'm asking for active support in me doing my self-care.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have 3 people left. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lasia, and I'm coming to you today from Victoria, BC, in Canada. And what I can offer, excuse me, what I can offer is that I have over 20 years of entrepreneurial business experience. The last several years, a lot of administrative stuff. And then just as sort of listening to people and where they are, I was reminded by Karen that also I'm a health coach. And one of the things that I have, that I love doing and have found myself doing quite a lot when I first moved here with the congregation at CSL Victoria here is helping people to take care of themselves, because they're so burnt out from however they're involved and whatever they're involved in, that they're taking care of everybody else, but kind of forgetting about the whole self-care aspect. So that is something that I can offer, diet, lifestyle, and just really remembering that all of this love and attention and focus that we shower on others really needs to start with ourselves. Otherwise, we get pretty depleted very quickly and we have nothing to offer anyone else. So that's oh, and branding. That was Cassandra says something about branding. I know quite a bit about branding, and I have amazing resources for branding. So I can definitely offer that. And then what I would love support in, and it's something that I kind of wanted to talk to Reverend Sonia about a few days ago, but I ended up not feeling well, so we didn't have our call. Is that I find myself kind of split between 3 different communities. One is the CSL community here that I am a part of, and going CSL in general, just going through practitioner studies through Global Truth Center LA, which is a very, very different experience of science of mind than what I'm used to here at CSL Victoria. Much closer to what I experienced in Toronto when I was there a few years ago, but intense. And then I work as the administrative officer at Unity Spiritual Community, which falls under the New Thought umbrella, but is a very different community. And they both have challenges in similar areas, and then they have strengths in different areas. And then I also, even though I'm like a practitioner student, I know that this is a stepping stone to ministry for me. And for the last couple of years, as I've been in Victoria, working with people and building a community, I know that my ministry is already showing up. And so the thing that I would love help with there is how to kind of bring it all together and be of service to everyone. And one of the biggest things that I would love help with is technology, because my husband and I are starting a podcast, and we want to be able to just create great content using the podcast, doing videos, and then being able to use those things for other things. And one of the things is to work with musicians, because I know that that's a part of my evolving ministry, is to have music be a big part of it. So technology for podcasts, for blogging, for going online, for streaming services so that they look good and sound good, the production quality is good, but wanting to start somewhere, and we're just at the point where we've gathered a bunch of information and we're just ready to start and not kind of keep going with, well, we could wait to get this better piece of equipment and do this and whatever, just to go.
Been
So,
through it.
yeah, so that's what I would like help with.
Okay, so let's, after this time together, let's reset from Monday night when we didn't meet, and let's see what happens here around the podcast and the blogging, because we've got some other people here too that could maybe exchange something for branding, who knows. Okay, Leslie or Tammy?
I can go.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Tammy St. Amand, and I'm the Minister Co-Spiritual Director for Center for Spiritual Living West Kootenay in the Kootenay region of BC, Castlegar, BC. And we are a tiny little center that has a lot of heart and a lot of people that I love dearly. So firstly, what I can offer, I can always offer support and consciousness for whatever your good is that you choose. That's, quite primary for me. I can always offer that. And for anybody who is looking at doing a startup ministry, particularly in Canada, I can offer some support and some information resources on starting a center, because that is something that Steph and I, my partner Steph and I, did from scratch 4 years ago. And so I know a lot about the ins and outs, and particularly when you're dealing with the Canadian Charities Directorate. Jeffrey, you were talking about the American charitable status thing. We have some similar issues here with regards to being political and what you can and can't get away with, that sort of thing. So I've got a lot of information about that I can offer for anybody starting within Canada, and information in general for Centers for Spiritual Living, for what it takes to be called a ministry within Centers for Spiritual Living. So so I can offer that.
Okay.
And what I would like to ask for support with, Steph and I have made the decision really in the last month. We have been in the process, I think, of making this decision for about a year, but in the last month, we have made the decision finally that we are candidating for ministries elsewhere. And so we are getting ready to move, and we have put together a candidating package that we are willing to send out to any medium to large centers out there that are looking for ministers. And if you know of anybody that is looking for a minister, or if you know are aware of a center that is on the verge of looking for a minister, I would love to be connected with them. I would love to be networking with whoever I can network with, and I would love to be in conversation with the various boards and centers to let them know who we are and what we're about, and to see who they are, because I'd love to get to know what is out there for us. So we are certainly ready to be out there serving and giving of ourselves in a greater way. So so that is my request, support and consciousness for that, as well as networking support.
Wonderful. Well, we'll get to see how all this unfolds while we're here together for the next 8 months or so. It should be interesting. I love to see momentum. And speaking of momentum, we have one person left. She has such momentum. She spent an hour and a half online with me last night with her practitioners, and here we are again.
Hey, did you miss me?
Totally.
My name is Leslie Goodwin, and I am a minister at New Vision Center for Spiritual Living in Phoenix, Arizona, and my beautiful co-director is on the line as well, and that's Karen, and we're having lots of fun getting in all kinds of trouble. In my other life, I am what is called a zero budget branding expert, a zero budget marketing expert. So that rolls in branding, social media, all forms of digital marketing, how to create digital marketing strategies with as little budget as possible. So I know how to do it the expensive way too, but the zero budget way is much more interesting for folks like us in situations like this. It is the ultimate DIY, but then we back it up with real marketing knowledge so that we're not just sort of throwing stuff at people. There's actually a strategy there. So if you're someone who is looking for branding, for how to make your own graphics that actually look like something good, or how to put together some sort of a strategy of, I only want to spend 20 minutes a day online, what can I do that's actually useful, I might be able to help. I also create and edit a podcast, done very much with the same philosophy, done with very inexpensive materials. I edit it all myself, and I've done the same with videos. So basically, if you want to make cool stuff and have people see it, odds are there's something interesting I've got that that might be helpful.
Okay, what's the name of your podcast?
And my podcast, I have two very awesome co-hosts for this podcast. You might have heard of them, Kim Jarrah Whittington and Sonia Byrne. And our podcast is called Sexy Spirituality, Real Spirituality for the Modern World.
And despite that, we all became reverends last week. So there you go. So we did get some.
Wow.
Anyway.
Yeah, we did get some carefully curated advice, each of us, about having started that podcast about 6 weeks before panels and how that wasn't maybe a good idea. So I think only Leslie had to defend it, actually, or explain it. So it all worked out fine. Here we are.
It wasn't defense. They were just curious. We were just curious. So I think Karen really nailed it on the head when she said we balance each other very well. Yeah. She's got a very business background. I've got a very marketing and education background. And so what I'm asking to receive is along the same lines, some self-care accountability, some personal boundaries accountability. I think I know the ideas and the logic, and I need to hold myself to it.
Okay. And Reverend Jeffrey I could see the look on his face, like, I'm not tough enough already. I am upping this, girl. I can hear it now.
Probably use it for real, Jeff.
She's an open invitation to be tougher with her, Jeffrey. Can you believe it, right? Okay.
Yes, well, she can be tougher with me too.
That goes both ways.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of reciprocity, so we've got a lot going on here. I'm only waiting on Alan. So when I should have that in the next 24 hours, and then I'm going to put the list together and send it out to everybody. So know that there's some, requests here and offers for things like listening and sounds like practitioner sessions and whatnot. And I'd say feel free to reach out to each other and help each other, ask for help or guidance on simple things. And if it gets into something like a person would have for their business and it'd be a package, then I'll let you guys work all that out. Or if you want to barter or anything, it really wasn't meant to be that kind of thing, but I've got some great sophisticated skills I didn't even expect here. So I'm going to put it out there. And I know that people will benefit from it. And just hearing exact matches here, this has been wonderful. So this is great. We're going to move into the topic tonight, which is the strategic planning, and knowing that our next session on November 15th is going to be organizational design. And one thing is going to flow into the other. So wherever we end tonight, we're going to pick up next time. And I gave you a bit of homework. It was a few pages. One page was pretty much an encapsulation or a summary review of what you had done before around your values and leadership style. And then there were some new pieces as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go into the point of sharing my screen around a recap of those definitions around entrepreneur, intrapreneur, and then of course we know employee, because I had some questions about that. I had some great comments about it too, actually, around the terminology and thinking of ourselves a little bit different. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, so we're going to review that spiritual entrepreneurship, and then we're going to do our personal values and mission piece that we had done in homework, and then flip it to our center. So go from inside to outside of us, and we're going to use a tool that I have for analyzing the landscape. And this is not about the garden outside your center, but just the business and opportunity and administrative organizational effectiveness landscape that you're sitting in, and then align those goals that we're going to look at putting into a strategic plan, align those with the actual needs so that we make sure that things are pretty tightly aligned. I just finished working with Tammy's wife, Steph, on the strategic planning committee. So I'm on that committee with a group of people, and Tracy Brown runs it. And so I believe it's, Steph probably knows the exact number, but I think it was like 72 strategic goals. So we're going to pare those down, I think. Yeah. So that's nothing like you're going to hand in to me, right? Yeah. But that's where we are. So when we looked at what an entrepreneur was, we had a definition for entrepreneur, and they identify a need and start a business to fill a void. Even in my ministerial panel and in conversations with a number of business leaders, with Dr. Ken Gordon, with Sharon Hudson, with Jim Lockhart, I have continued to say that we are in an entrepreneurial model to become ministers without an entrepreneurial training that aligns us for that. And I think that's the disconnect we feel in sort of like 0 days to 3 years being in ministry. And I think people sometimes get past this and it hits them a bit later, depending if they've been like a staff minister for a number of years and then they go out on their own. Really what I mean by this is that there's no archdiocese of any place, like as if you were an Anglican minister and you have a salary and you're on a salary grid and you're on a development plan and you're assigned to a place that needs you and you're paid a salary and you're very clearly, ensconced in this structure. We graduate and it's kind of like, well, go find what you want to do or go build what you want to do. And that makes us entrepreneurial initially. And then, so you saw the characteristics and maybe some of them really sat with you. I've heard some people say a few of these around the adaptability. I've heard 3 people talk to me about exit preparedness or exit strategy. So I love that. And then we're looking at this spiritual entrepreneur definition from last time, where that entrepreneur, as we are with the divine working through us to bring our good into the world. And this is how we get into this do well and do good paradigm, which I had some comments on as well. And I like that we can think of how we can wrap our activities around both doing good and doing well. And I think maybe in centers we sometimes focus more on the doing good, and there's some issues in consciousness around the doing well. And that comes from all kinds of places, and we bring it to the center, and our congregants bring it to the center, and people who work for the organization that we're in also have their own issues around that. And then we find that we're sitting in some of these issues. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I just want to call that out because it's probably going to come up when we get into some of the strategic plan pieces. So we have these characteristics of spiritual entrepreneurs. I love that we're breaking rules. It sounds like Leslie and Karen are breaking some rules. They have to be if they're having fun like that, I think. And then if we look at the entrepreneur versus intrapreneur, so we can start out as entrepreneurs. Go do something, go find your way that you're going to be a minister. And then we begin to look for kind of employment. And we might even sign a contract, letter of call, right? And that means that some people feel when they sign that, they feel like they're an employee. So if I had 100 ministers in the room and I said, who feels like an employee? Some people would say that they're an employee. They're an employee of the center or they're an employee of the board. So they've kind of handed over that entrepreneurial piece into this paradigm of employment. And I don't have like a negative or positive reaction to that. I'm just saying that it's a mental switch. You can hear what I'm saying, right? People do this. And some people stay in the entrepreneurial status where they sign their letter of call or their contract, and they're still considering themselves as, I'm totally responsible for this place. And it's me that's going to drive it, and it's me that's going to lead it. And that is another viewpoint. Something else can happen, which is kind of in the in-between. And I think we can spend a lot of our time as community leaders in this intrapreneur place, where sometimes we feel like an employee because maybe we have a regularity of income. And sometimes we can feel like an entrepreneur, like, well, I might have a regular paycheck, but if I don't build fantastic programming and maintain or grow my congregation, I'm not going to continue to get my paycheck. So there's this in-between place that we find ourselves in, this intrapreneur. So I want to just hop out of this for just a second here. And before we go on to the values, I know you've got that aside on deck waiting to chat about that, but any comment on this idea of employee versus intrapreneur versus entrepreneur? I know some people have been percolating on it because people talked to me about it. So I just want to open a dialogue here if anyone would like to express something, some experience they had, a reaction, a question, thoughts.
This is Karen.
I can.
I wanted to just say how helpful that has been.
Okay, it's Karen saying it's been helpful. Yes.
Yeah, it's been really helpful for when I think about it. It just helped having the different activities in which I find myself, find a place to land. And it has given me the permission that this is okay. Because I'm approaching what we do here totally from an entrepreneurial point of view, because that's how it feels, right? But to have the mindset of, when am I in the intrapreneurial role? When am I just one of the faces of New Vision Center that does some project that I took on or something? It has been really helpful.
Okay, thank you. And Tammy, you wanted to share?
I shared last time that I had been very uncomfortable with the idea, or with the word entrepreneur, I guess, because I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. But after we had that whole discussion about entrepreneur and intrapreneur and employee, I realized that even in my other job that I'm currently doing, which is an employment counselor, a case manager for a BC employment program, that I am very entrepreneurial in that. Not even intrapreneurial. I'm very entrepreneurial because my clients are my clients. My clients are I am serving them in whatever their needs are, and I am pulling from whatever funding options I can find in order to get them from where they are right now to where they want to be. And so I do take that as this is my responsibility. I'm the one that's in charge of how I manage this relationship with this client. I am the one who is in charge of the integrity of the information that I put forward and the integrity of the referrals that I make for this client. And so I am now looking at that role in a different way as well, because I'm entrepreneurial even within that role.
Mhm.
So that was a real wake up for me. That was very interesting, and I loved to receive that information. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else have a comment or reaction to that experience of the definitions? Okay. Okay, how about we grab our value sheets? So when we were looking at values, I had you choose from that list your top 3 values. So everyone has their values. And then there was the request to have them be actionable. So let me just go forward here. So you would have seen something like this in the handout. So having this value and then finding 3 ways that you express that value in your day-to-day work life, in your day-to-day role in a community leader capacity. Now, I put this in here because we are going to get to your organizational values eventually as well. And when I do strategic planning with organizations and they choose their values, like you've seen an organization will say, our value is integrity and customer service and trustworthiness or honesty or humor or whatever it is. Any group that I work with, I don't allow them to retain their value unless they can give me 5 ways that their employees and they themselves can demonstrate that value that says, in this action, I can tell that I am demonstrating integrity, or I am demonstrating trustworthiness, or when our drivers do this, this means they're honest. When our customer service people do this, this means they're in integrity. So I have people work for their values a little bit, and they have to work to hold them, right? And that way they don't become these marquees I talked about, these Las Vegas lights way up in the sky that don't touch you and don't ask anything of you and you can't explain it. So I'm curious about the experience with the values and then putting them into action. So can we go around and I'd love to hear your top value and one of the ways that you know that you are living, breathing, demonstrating that value. So without the background to it, but my value is, and this is the way that I demonstrate it. I want to hear the activity and action take place attached to the value. Okay, how about we start with Cassandra?
Sure, no problem. My top value is courage. And being in this creative space, some of the ways that I can demonstrate that while I'm creating is to use my voice through speaking, teaching, and writing. So that includes blogging and expressing myself on social media. And another way is to make intuitive choices based on Spirit's guidance instead of what always seems logical. And also to begin offering classes now and not wait until I have more put together.
That feels like I'm seeing knots. That feels super demonstrative. There is how we would know that you're living that value. Can you see the difference when someone says something and you really lock in? Okay, Leslie, your top value and the one way that you're going to express it.
Sure. My top value is creativity, which is my twist on self-expression. And my actions are creating curriculum and programs, designing branded visuals for marketing and frankly anything else that anybody wants, and innovating and finding creative solutions.
Okay. The last one feels softer than the first 2.
Does it when you take into account the kinds of stuff we're doing? I mean, I hear you. It's around organizational management.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's just the activeness was higher in the first 2. That makes sense. Sometimes it can be hard to get 3 as well.
Well, I mean, I could have done a billion things about writing and whatever, but that stepping more into looking at not the obvious choice is up for me.
Okay, that sounds different for sure. Jeffrey.
So my top value was integrity, and one of the ones was having open and authentic conversations with people in the community.
Okay.
So staying in integrity in that way.
Sounds like you've been busy doing that. Sounds like you've been busy doing that. Yeah.
Yes, especially the past couple of weeks. Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's continuing. So there you go.
Okay. Teresa.
Okay. So I sort of struggled. My top value I have is entrepreneurship. And the actions are generating new ideas for my center, following through on those, and learning about new ways of doing things, new activities, and new initiatives.
Okay.
So taking in information, generating ideas, and following through on those.
Okay, great. Thank you. Lesia?
Excuse me. Okay, so again, coming from I feel like I'm kind of split by serving the two concrete communities, CSL and Unity, and then my own stuff that is coming up. The way that really sort of came to mind that was really important, as kind of simple as it sounds, for my value of success was to really focus on and just embrace practitioner studies. And not, sometimes I can kind of skate the surface and not like really dive deep. And here I realized in the last few weeks how, first of all, it just wouldn't be possible in James Mellon's class to like not do that, but how integral it is to really open up my heart to this process and not stay stuck in my head if I really want to go places. And the more I do that, the stronger a practitioner I am, and the more I'm able to be of service to all of these other communities that I'm of service to. So that is, it seems kind of obvious, but that was the one that just really hit home for me.
Well, you got a lot of nods at the beginning, so thank you. How about we hear from Stephanie?
Oop, here we are. Okay. Let's see. My number one value was empowerment. Excuse me. And this is something that I'm really having to work with right now because we're talking about moving at my center. And we had a big meeting, and a little less than half did not want to move. And so we know that we're going to have some pushback, and it's been given to me to care for these folks. And that's the way I'm looking at it, is that I want to care for them. And so I'm working on some plans to create what I'm calling safe, non-judgmental spaces where people can feel heard. That's taking a lot, especially since I'm in my senior year of ministerial school. So again, I'm asking open, honest questions, and I'm always trying to listen to understand and not just to respond.
Okay, great. Thank you. Karen.
Thank you, Reverend Sonia.
You're welcome, Reverend Karen.
First of all, he is that wonderful stuff. So for me, my top value is freedom, and for me that means living out all of who I am without making an excuse for that. And it's about creating resources in time and financial resources to travel and to support others to do the same.
Okay, great. So we have, is it Tammy left?
Sure, yes. So my top value is love, and my number one way of demonstrating that is being present with people providing loving welcome to anyone and everyone that enters the room, regardless of their background or current life experiences or their expression of their life, whatever that is, their spiritual path, whatever that is. And as well, in that being present, just to connect with people eye to eye and to really be present with what people are saying to me.
Wonderful. You're seeing some nods here. Great, thank you. So what I'd like you folks to do with the values list, the original values list that you received prior to starting the first module, is I'd like you to take that values list, and for our next time together in November, I'd like you to look at that list from the perspective of your community. So imagine we were doing a strategic plan with your board. And the board, the stakeholders, whoever was in a strategic plan meeting, which is often, you know, the board, you might have a few practitioners, you may have a few congregants, you'll sort of bring in people from the different stakeholder groups that you have that would be impacted by whatever you decide to do in a strategic plan. And so imagine that that group is in the room. So they're a collective of your community. And I'd like you to, for the next session, to go back over that list and do the same thing. Come up with the top 3 for your community and the ways that those 3 are embodied and demonstrated inside your community. And that's going to bridge the strategic plan piece that we're starting tonight and the organizational design piece next time. Okay, so that's going to be, that's your homework. You don't have a whole lot of homework tonight. I have an extension of your strategic planning documents that you've started that you can continue, and then this is really your homework, the values piece. I'm giving you that here ahead of time. Okay, so let's take a look here. So when we started the conversation about our mission and looked at the idea of the doing and the being, and this simplified mission statement for Me Incorporated, and you'd work with that. So it's my mission to be by doing, and then I want to take a look at your center as well. So your center will have a mission. So if you could pull up now your, stop the share here, your own mission. Now, you had worked on it in the first session that we had, but I'm curious if you took a look at what you did for your homework about your mission for Me Incorporated, if you might find that anything has changed. Okay. So if we look at it from this perspective of the being and the doing. So it is my mission to be this by doing such and such. And so let's just, I'm going to stop the share here. Okay. So in the chat function, what I'd like you to do, and Teresa, if that's not possible, I can just take yours verbally. But when you put your mission together and you're thinking of what you're going to be, can you type that in the chat? The being part. So it is my mission as a community leader to be. What is it that you're being for your community? So go ahead and put that in chat. And you don't have, you know, this isn't something that has to be written in stone and you can change it later. But if you're thinking of having your own personal mission. Okay, so we have an agent of change. I almost made you an angel, Leslie. That, you know that's not. Yeah. It is my mission, Jeffrey, in my community to be a visionary. So Tammy, to be an unconditionally loving presence. Okay. How many of you have in your centers have a mission statement for your centers? Does anyone have a mission statement? Stephanie's like, I don't know, probably. I'm reading your lips now, Stephanie. Jeffrey, what is the mission statement for your center?
We empower people to, we embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love.
Okay, so if we go into what we're being, we're emboldeners, and what we're doing is the how through the transformative power of love. Okay, wonderful. So we've got some being and some doing in there. Leslie, what's your mission statement? Oh, is it the same as Karen? We teach spiritual living and we live spiritual teaching. Oh, that's cute. I like how you doubled it back on itself. I like that. Okay. Be a safe place for deep transformation. Okay. So you see that we have some blend of being and doing in there. So if you had a being piece of your mission, so I'm going to be the community leader. It's my mission to be a supportive community leader by providing the following things in my center, for instance. So you can see how there's that being and that doing piece in there, and mission statements generally have that. So in Karen, you're teachers of spiritual living and you're living spiritual teaching. So you've got some being and some doing in there. Did you notice that, the way that flows? So if you take a look at mission statements for centers, you'll see that the mission statement will typically say what we are, because it's today, what we are being today. So if someone came into our community, they would be able to see visually that we are doing these things. And so who we're being, they would have a sense of who we're being by the interactions that they have with us and the experience that they're left with. So you've got this being and doing piece to things. I am going to ask you to, if you have a mission statement, revisit your mission statement. And if you don't have one, I'm going to ask you to start to kind of consider one without worrying about it being perfect. But think of what your organization, what your center, your community is being, not what it wants to be, but what it's being, and how you're doing that. And put together a sentence or two that kind of combines that piece of things. And that's going to be part of your strategic plan. So I am going to ask that you send that back to me with your strategic plan piece that we're going to work on here. And we will get to a vision statement, but I'm actually going to hold the vision statement till the new year, till we're a little further along and we look at now, because this is who we're saying we're being and this is what we're working on. We want to look at what could happen down the road for us if we are right now a teaching center, or right now we're rooted in evolution for people or social justice for people. Then what does that mean we're going to be in 5 years from now? Who do we want to be? Like, do we want to be the number one option within this community? Do we want to hold a seat in a certain place? Do we want to have a physical space, differently than what we are right now? Do we want to be a certain kind of offering? Is there anything we want to change? And so from the vision statement later, we'll probably come up with a tagline type of idea for you too, so you can bridge the mission and the vision. The world that works for everyone is, although we say it's our vision, is not a vision statement. It's a tagline. It's a tagline like "Just Do It" and Coke Adds Life and things like that. So, I mean, Ken Gordon and I have had conversations about that, a few conversations about that, about what a world that works for everyone could mean. And so it's, as a vision statement, if that was given to a marketing or business class in a college or university to dissect, they'd probably say things like, well, how do you know you achieve it? What does it look like? When do you know that you get there? What are the pieces along the path? What are people doing and being and feeling later? So we want to be able to have a mission statement that people can imagine that that's the experience, that matches their experience right now. And their vision statement needs to be something that up-levels that experience in one way or another and says who we're going to be. And from that, there can be a great tagline. And so I'm thinking like your teaching concept in New Vision, something about social justice maybe, or family. I know you've got this "Love Lives Here." That is a fantastic tagline. Now, if that was a vision statement, we would have to define what it looks like, right? And right now, love lives here right now. So it is it's your present, it's your tagline. So Tammy has, and we send you our current vision statement or a rewritten one for being, doing format. The mission statement, not the vision, but the mission statement. So the current state. So you go ahead and send that in for your community. And I'm going to show you how we're going to work with it for the strategic plan shortly. So you can just send it all in at one time, and that way I can help you out with it. And if you need to do a coaching session, we can do that too. So let's get into an exercise that I want to take you through here, which is going to help us get a lay of the land. It's that landscape piece. Okay, so we're going to do something called a toes analysis. So what I'd like you to do, you can see the screen, it's 4 squares. So on a blank piece of paper, I'd like you to create one big square and then divide it, put a cross in there, and divide it into 4 equal segments. So I'll give you a second here just to do that. And in that top left-hand corner, I'm going to have you put the word threats. Okay. And so as we step into this exercise, I'm going to ask that you follow me. Okay. I'm going to ask that you abandon or release any sense of spiritual bypass in this conversation. I want you to notice when you want to go into, well, there's nothing wrong because I'm a spiritual being and this is all consciousness. I want you to leave your spiritual side just aside for a moment. And we're going to go down into the humanness of anything we see, anything we're concerned or worried about, or maybe it's not us because we're so spiritual, but people tell us that they're concerned or worried about these things. So we hear them enough that we remember them, okay? So we're going to go down. I'll let you go over to the spiritual side again really, really shortly, but hang out down in the muck with me for a moment because this is some stuff we need to look at, and not for too long, I promise, okay? So what I'd like you to do is to write down 1 or 2. I have 1, 2, 3, but you don't need to have 3, but the top 1 or 2 threats to your spiritual community. Let me give you some context. Your spiritual community is your center. Threats are external, which means that they're not coming from inside your center. They're outside your center. So if something's happening in the community, you're going to lose your marketing company. The Unity Church is across the way is doing a big campaign. Something in your local government has changed. A big company that had a bunch of people who were employees and came on your Sunday are relocating or closing. These might be threats. So they're not inside your community. As an example of something that's not a threat is we have conflict in our community. We have conflict inside, we have bad communication. That's not a threat. That's going to be what we call a weakness inside. So outside you. And there might only be 1 or 2, but something might come to mind really quickly. So go ahead and indicate in that top left box any threat to your community. And I know we're spiritual beings, so we're not supposed to feel threatened at all. Just pretend for a moment or just take note of what you're hearing. So Teresa, I just want to make sure you're with us on this.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay. So Teresa, you've probably seen something like a SWOT analysis before.
Yep.
Right. Anyone else dealt with a SWOT analysis? So the SWOT. So I take it and turn it on its side, and we're doing a toes. It's all the same letters, but we're going to work with it differently. Anyone done a toes? Great. I love the newbie. Yeah. Don't you love where it takes us first down into the basement? We get to come up. Okay, we get to come up. So we've got our 1 or 2 threats. Can everyone nod for me that they've got something there? Okay. Lasia, you don't have one just yet? Okay, hang with it. Hang with it. Okay. And then now that you've got this threat, what I'd like you to do is just below that area, we're going to now talk about other yucky stuff. We're going to talk about weaknesses. So I'd like you to document 1 or 2 weaknesses. Here's a weakness. It's internal. It's not outside your community. So a weakness may show up as something you see, like there's gossip or conflict. And so the weakness in that might be what is needed. So a weakness might be we have poor communication, or we have poor boundaries, or poor structure, or if we have difficulty calling that stuff, then that goes back to communication. So there's a weakness inside, and it usually shows up in something that's uncomfortable. So for instance, if you don't have enough congregants, that's internal. That's not a threat. That's internal. So that is low attendance is your weakness in there. And that could be generated as a weakness that you call, lack of development or lack of marketing, or something around the attraction. So you can put something in there for weakness. Okay, everyone got, does everyone have a weakness of some sort, the internal? Okay, Leslie, that was easier for you? Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to share the screen again so you can see what I'm doing with this. And then I'm going to give you some pairing opportunity here. So I'm going to bring you out of the darkness into the light with this. So now we get to be spiritual beings of possibility. Promised this, and here we are. So what I'm going to have you do is look at those things that are threats, and we're going to consider what is an opportunity. So how would we address that threat? And whatever you take note of here may flesh out in the next few days, week or so, to something that's a little more fully formed. Right now, you're just going to go with what comes up and what's on the surface, just to go through the exercise, and then you can deepen it between the 2 sessions, between module 2 and 3. And then for the weaknesses, I'd like you to look at how you can turn that weakness into a strength. So what's needed to make that strong. Okay. So for instance, if a weakness is that we don't have a marketing plan, then if we want to get over to a strength, might mean that we need to get ourselves a person who'll do the marketing plan. And we would turn that into a strength. Okay, so we're going to remedy the threats and remedy the weaknesses with opportunities and with strengths. This is a conversation, and this is the first time you're seeing it. So it's just something that you can use to get a sense of your environment. So I want to put you in pairs for about 10 minutes here so that you can have discussion with another colleague, a peer, and kind of go through a thread, hear from the other person your idea of an opportunity, hear if they might have a suggestion. So do the feedback for each other as a sounding board exercise. So I'm going to put you in pairs for about 10 minutes. Does anyone have a question before I put you in there? Okay, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and then you'll have a chance to run this by up here, and let's see where we end with it. See if you can also get some ideas from someone who's maybe doing something similar or has had some experience. So just 1 second, we're going to pop out, and it's about 5 minutes each, okay?
Can you just give the instructions again?
Sure. So you've come up with threats, and you've looked at an opportunity that could get you out of that threat. You've looked at weaknesses, and you're looking at how you could translate that into a strength. What would need to happen to move it from weakness over to strength? And you're going to go into a pairs breakout now, and so you'll be in with someone, Teresa, and you'll have 5 minutes each. You can talk about what showed up for you, because it's all just surface stuff. It comes out pretty quickly, and get some feedback from the other person about converting that threat to an opportunity, converting that weakness to a strength.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll see everyone in 10 minutes. Let me see here. 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay.